back to another week of Art Life. For those of you who were watching last week, you might have noticed that in my painting I was getting quite limited with my use of brushes that I could use. That's because they are in dire need of a clean, which is what we are going to do today. It's a bit of a maintenance session. So usually when I finish painting, I'll use Da Vinci soap or like oil painting soap. And I'll kind of like scrub it into my brushes. It keeps them kind of pretty clean, pretty in good condition. I mean, the condition for these brushes, a lot of them are like 10 years old. So I'm being maybe a little bit hard on myself for the terrible condition I keep them in. So this is my oldest brush. It's actually 10 years old. My dad bought it for me in 2012 when I was at art school and I couldn't afford my own brushes. It's got this amazing long handle and I adore it, but it's just, obviously it's covered in paint. It's just so hard, like, you could literally like crack bricks with that, and that's not really helpful for me when I'm doing like delicate painting marks. So usually I keep my paintbrushes in 3 or 4 different pots. I have my everyday, every use pots, which is always in my Michelangelo head. These are the slightly smaller brushes. There's a mixture of rosemary brushes, Omega brushes, brushes from, gosh, Pro Arte from like 5 years ago, brushes that I was given as gifts. These are Robertson ones. Usually they're all filbert though. Filbert brushes, if you haven't seen our episode on everything you need to know about an artist's oil brush, they're the rounder head rather than the kind of very flat head brush. They're also mostly hog hair. I think I have 1 or 2 squirrel hair, which was given as a gift. I did try synthetic because nowadays brushes, you can get very good synthetic brushes which are almost as good as hog. I find I prefer working with traditional hog hair, even though I'm a vegetarian, just because the fibres don't come out, the brush like kind of threads don't come out when I'm working, because the most mortifying thing as an artist is when you're painting and your brush is like disintegrating into the oil and you're left with loads of brush hairs in your painting. So for that, I think rosemary brushes have been like the best I've ever bought. I mean, look at this one, it's just so overused. It's like lost its shape completely. It's turned into a bit of like a monster. I mean, just see it as a bad hair day. All of these guys just need a good condition. And how I do that is basically with Zest It. I just bought this from Jackson's Art, my mecca for buying everything I need when it comes to stuff like this. And I think it came with a little like bit of information, because basically why I like it is that it's, hang on, why I like it, this is why I like it. It's quite, because it smells citrusy. No, it actually, oopsie, they actually do loads of products. I didn't know they did this many. Okay, so it's non-toxic and non-flammable. That's why I like it. And it basically says it has a pleasant citrus smell, neutral pH value, and contains no CFCs or aromatics. So you can actually probably also use it to thin oil paint, but I mean, I think washing brushes is the best thing it's for. I was talking about this with Rafe, normally I would use Zest It, you soak them in some jars for a few hours until all of that really hard to get off paint, which, you know, that makes them so sticky and unmovable, just lets go and lets the brush return, hopefully, to its original state, although I doubt they'll change from blue. These brushes have been blue for many years. I don't think they're going to go into suddenly like a beautiful colour. But if you do, like me, use very, I mean, like, listen to this. How am I meant to paint with that? Now, these brushes are the ones that need to be the most soft and supple, because these are sort of smoking brushes or priming brushes where you want really lovely, soft, kind of smoky airbrushing effects to happen. I mean, I tried to do this the other day. As you can imagine, it turned into like scraping the paint off my canvas and it just was no good. I'm trying to think if I've got, I mean, this one's probably all right. You can actually know that even that's quite stiff at the base. So there you go. I mean, when you use your brushes, they just do go a little bit sort of stiff and kind of immovable. And using Zest It will just make them return to a better condition and hopefully give you better marks that you're making with your oil paint. So I've got my cleaning station. If you guys are doing this at home, I recommend doing it somewhere where it doesn't matter if you get paint maybe splattered everywhere. We're going to fill up the cleaner jars with the Zest It and we're just going to soak the brushes in it, and then we are going to shoot off for a bit, let them really soak, and what you'll find is that the colour goes from clear to kind of murky brown colour as all of that old paint disintegrates away from the brush, which is what we like to see. And then hopefully by the end of this episode, I'll have a new batch of brushes and be able to kind of get started on a whole new series of paintings. So also, while the brushes will be cleaning, I thought we should do something today to keep us busy. And as you know, my exhibition is this month and it's about time I framed some of my paintings. So I talk a lot about working on arche paper These are some of my oil paintings which I'd like to see framed in my show, just to kind of support my whole kind of body of work in a kind of more like sketchy way as well, so people can see kind of my works in a more fluid, not all just done on canvas. And then we're going to frame as well this big juicy one, and I think it would just go really, really nicely with some of my other colour palettes that I've been using. So we're going to go to Hamish in Suffolk, deepest, darkest Suffolk. He is my framer, and he has done beautiful work for me before on the episode we did of how and why you should frame your paintings. So we're going to go to him with these works and hopefully just film a little bit about the process of choosing a frame, like how I go about making sure I can get the best like effect for my painting. Otherwise, a bad frame can ruin a good painting, as we know. So that's what we're going to do in this week's episode. It's a bit of a maintenance episode, but it's nice to bring you along and show you all the little things that I do as an artist who works full time. So something, a litre like this would cost around £20 to £25. So I won't kind of, you don't need much. I think what would be quite nice to use, ready?
Uh-huh.
Some brushes will literally only need 10 minutes and some might need like a few hours, depending on how much pigment you have in. Okay. So they're all soaking, and now we're going to be shooting off, giving them a bit of time just to absorb all of that Zest It, and hopefully when we come back they'll be much more suppler. A few of that kind of debris would have left the brushes, and I'll get a little bit more life out of these guys because I don't want to get rid of them just yet. So it's a bit of a resurrection process, and it's just something you always have to do in your practice every kind of year, twice a year if you can, just to keep everything like on top, tip-top shape. So let's leave them here and shoot off to get these bad boys framed. That in Snape Matings, just down the road, there is an incredible exhibition that we shouldn't miss. So we've decided that spontaneously we're going to go and check it out and bring you along for the ride. very different exhibition experience than what we're going to be doing in London next week. To be here and then looking at art rather than being in the city, it's just kind of why we wanted to move to the country, why I love living where I live as an artist. It's so inspiring. You get inspired by the landscape before you look at art anyway, so I think it's the perfect way to spend a morning before I paint all afternoon. So the exhibition is Remains to be Seen, showing works of Paul Benny, Lawrence Edwards and Kiki Smith. And it's heavily based around the kind of like Suffolk landscape. I took a photo of this, I thought it was really interesting. I didn't take a very good photo. So it says, Suffolk's diverse, it's like exploring Suffolk's diverse and archaeologically rich history, bringing into relief the artist's common interests in the body as a narrative and site. The county has the second greatest density of medieval churches in the country. Did you know that?
No.
I didn't know that. And it's internationally renowned for its finds of the Bronze Age, Iron Age, Roman and medieval periods. We did know that. But its riches reach as far back as the Neolithic. So that's what these artists are kind of combining their interests in a kind of like combination of print work, painting and sculpture around this entire, they've taken over the entire complex. So we've got our map. We can just go and have an explore, basically. But I think next to like Paul Benny's, it like speaks really well with the sculpture and the painting. I think it's got like a lot of drama, and in a space like this as well, it feels like intimate and quite like evocative. It's like a massive scale of artwork, but because the space is so open, it feels like it's really contained. They work really well together, don't they? I like Kiki's like an Italian pietà about it, like human remains or something. There's something quite like, I don't know, it feels like this is something to do with like life and death. Embalming the girl with the stars, or like she's kind of like this fear and presence over this quite, I don't know, still figure who's quite like leaving this world. I don't know, all the kind of religious lights and the candles and their different stages of burning out. It feels like until you come to the final candle, completely all smoke, no light. It's like, I don't know, it's like mortality or something. It's like, what do you think? So we're back, and while these are feeling a little bit softer, they are still slightly hard. So I, apart from using the Da Vinci soap and the solvent, I didn't really know how else to soften really hardened brushes. And I was doing some research. Some people were saying apple cider vinegar, although it can strip a lot of the natural oils out of the brush. And then I found a website that said, use some fabric softener that you use for washing your laundry and do 1/8 of a cup of fabric softener and to 4 cups of warmed boiling water. Let that sit and soak the brushes for 10 to 15 minutes and just kind of like work into the brush as well. Don't just leave them, actually actively try and scrub it in with the brush. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to see if I can make these brushes even softer and more malleable for paint. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. At least we'll know. There. It's not boiling.
It's really good.
Makes sense, I guess. Yeah, it is softer.
Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah, look at that. Ooh, it's working. It's definitely softer, actually. Smells nice as well. That stretch and that bend. Is there a brush that I showed you that was like completely ruined?
Your big one. There we are.
There we are. There's no bashing here anymore. Doesn't reclaim the colour, but that's just age. Yeah, that's really soft now. Look at that.
Just the strength of the pigment.
Yeah. Usually it's particularly with Caribbean turquoise, it just stains your brushes right away. You'll never get them back. Cerulean blue. Yes, look at these.
Don't need to buy new brushes, you just need to look after your old ones.
I mean, I always need new brushes. Don't put that out there. I would love some new brushes, but until I can get my new brushes, maybe I'll have a sellout exhibition and then be able to afford many new brushes after the show. Until then, this will have to keep me going. Right, this is the brush that was rock hard. Can you just see that now? See how bendy that is? Ooh la la. Fabric softener. I feel like a witch with a like this is my cauldron.
Here's your cauldron.
Cauldron of brushes. So just to show you a comparison of a before and after. So this is a before brush, one that hasn't been treated at all. As you see, there is no movement. I'm putting a lot of weight on that. It's just basically rock solid. And then this one is one we've just treated. Obviously you can see how much more colour we have of the natural brush, but just look at the kind of shine on the bristles and also the flexibility. There we go. So just so if you are not convinced that you should do this at home, there is a little bit of before and after evidence that this is actually a very good, if tedious, thing to do. So thank you so much for watching this week's episode of Art Life. I hope you have enjoyed just a typical day in the artistic practice of an artist who works full time. If there's any questions you have about anything you've seen on this week's episode, do leave us a comment below. I love to hear you guys when you're like just messaging me in the week. It's really helpful for my practice as well to see how the videos are being received. Again, you can like, follow, subscribe with this channel, but you can also follow me on @JessOliverArt on Instagram for daily updates of my studio practice, which I always release in my stories. Yeah, I'm just going to carry on now, just finally finishing a few of these brushes. I hope something in this video has helped you, and if you haven't found it useful, go and check some of our older videos, because I'm sure there's something in the 69 or 70 videos we've made that might appeal to you there. So yeah, thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you next Monday. Bye.